welcome everybody to another episode of the Liberation Lens podcast with David Alexander. I am your host, David Alexander, and this is episode 5. We finally made it to 5. It's been a little bit of a break between 4 and 5, and I apologize for that. I've been writing other articles on Substack. I hope you've been enjoying those. And life has gotten busy with lots of other projects in between getting to this very important episode of the Liberation Lens podcast, because what we're doing in the first 8 episodes is giving you the building blocks of what I call the Liberation Lens. So we went through the first four episodes. Consciousness is everything. Everyone is on the path. Evolution is our nature, and wholeness is our design, is number 3. And then last episode, spiritual practice is the language of our growth. Those are the first 4, and they kind of work together, right? The first 4 are, building blocks that are essential components. I'm calling them pillars. You could call them principles, concepts, structures of this thing called the Liberation Lens, right? So we begin with the idea that consciousness is everything. Everyone is on the path, a principle of inclusivity, that we're all evolving. Evolution is our nature. And then spiritual practice is the language of our growth, which is like, based on the first 3. Okay, what do we do with that? We work through spiritual principles, right? So they all kind of come together there at number 4. And then with number 5, the next 4 come together in kind of a neat little package, and it all hinges on number 5, which is, I think, the most important in the entire set, outside of the first one being self-fundamental consciousness is everything. Number 5 is so big, it could be several episodes, but my intention is to make these short. We've been around 20 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes on each episode, and I will try to stick to that for this one today as well, so that we're just touching the surface. Each of these first 8 episodes will be the chapter in my new book, The Liberation Lens, so there'll be a lot more detail. But number 5 is so important to me. It's so big, and there's so many elements to it that that's part of the reason why there's been a gap before I sat down to produce this episode. Because there's so much I want to say, and it's just so expansive of a topic. And so let's get to it. I finally just decided, you know what? I need to rip off the Band-Aid. I need to just do it. I'm going to leave some stuff out. There's going to be more to say, but hopefully you as my listener will like and share, and maybe share some comments with me. That will be really helpful in the process. And again, as you know, your participation is helping build this framework and contributing to the book, which will have a lot more content and information in it. So hopefully we're wetting your whistle here. Deep thanks to my contributors, to my paid subscribers. Thank you so much. We're up to, I think, 35 now paid subscribers here on Substack. You are really seeding this work, and I'm deeply grateful. And we have crossed another milestone, over 400 subscribers that are free subscribers, minus the 35. 404, I think, as of this recording. So that is amazing. Thank you so much. It's growing, and it's because you're liking and sharing and commenting here on this wonderful platform, Substack. So with all that said, now let's get into the heart of it. Number 5, what is it? Why is it so important? Why did it take me so long to sit down and do this? Number 5 is, you belong to the universe. You belong to the universe. I have been working with this principle of belonging for about the past 5 years, concretely and directly in the ministry work I do with Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We started with this wonderful book, You Belong, by Sebene Selassie. The subtitle, A Call for Connection. Wonderful, wonderful. We wrote a whole curriculum on this book. You can find it on our website, education website, newthoughtaeducation.com. I'll put a link in the text version of this podcast. You can get that. It's got a PDF. It's got videos. It's all self directed education now, and I really encourage you to take that course. And because we'll go through the book and really provide the foundation for this concept of belonging, which is so important to everything that we're doing. It would prove to be, to me, a fundamental shift in how I think about the approach of our work in New Thought. And what I mean by that is that for many years, my approach was about, kind of the individual quest of wholeness, the individual quest of fulfillment, the individual quest of self-expression. And when I read Sebene Selassie's work, You Belong, it shifted that concept of seeking wholeness or self-expression or fulfillment to seeking belonging. It's a subtle shift, and it changed everything. Everything. My ministry has not been the same since. Please download and take that course. Again, it's self-paced study with a PDF and videos to watch and participation engagement. Find that at newthoughteducation.com. All right. So here it is, right? There's a fundamental truth that transcends all borders, all identities, and all ways in which we divide ourselves up. And that is that you belong. Not just to family or to culture or to community, but you belong to the universe itself. Your existence is not an accident. It's an essential thread in the vast unfolding and tapestry of humanity. You belong. Illusion is a separation. There's so much of our human history that we have been conditioned to believe in separation. We see ourselves as distinct entities from each other and divide by race and class and nationality and region and gender and personal experiences. And this illusion creates fear and competition and sense of isolation. But when we look deeper, when we transcend the surface of the individual level, we find something profound, a unity, biologically, spiritually, fundamentally to who we are. At the quantum level, science confirms what spiritual traditions have always taught us, that everything is connected. Every atom in your body, every ounce of you belongs to the stars. The same energy that moves galaxies moves within you. You are not separate from the universe. You are an expression of the universe. And you express as all of those beautiful things, all those identities, all those expressions of gender and race and nationality and culture and all of those things. And so you belong to all of that too, right? In your unique way. And so this belonging has these threads and layers to it, which speak to the idea that there are circles of belonging, right? There are ways in which we belong to culture and identity, that my culture and identity that I belong to is different than yours and unique in many ways. There are ways in which you and I belong to some similar cultures, perhaps as members of the same spiritual community or faith group or nationality or gender or other identities, right? And there are ways in which we are all completely unique, like crystals or snowflakes or fingerprints, unique identities never been before repeated in the universe, right? Sebene Selassie in her book reminds us that belonging is not just about fitting in, it's about recognizing our inherent wholeness. She emphasizes that at the root of disconnection lies our mistaken belief that we are separate. True belonging, she says, arises when we embrace all parts of ourselves and acknowledge our connection to everything around us. She weaves together personal experience and spiritual insights and social awareness to show that belonging is a practice, one that requires mindfulness and self-compassion and deep engagement. And then there's the work of John Powell and the Belonging and Othering Institute. New book out Belonging Without Othering, the Belonging and Othering Institute out of Oakland, California. Amazing work that is deep and academic and rich in so many ways. They expand the conversation on belonging by addressing the systemic and structural forces that create exclusion. They talk about structural belonging and institutional belonging and ways in which do I fit in based on the structure of what I'm walking into, right? Is there a bathroom for me? Is the room friendly? Do I culturally belong, etc.? And examining all of those things and how we marginalize and other each other. So much rich work in the Othering and Belonging Institute, which has led me to other authors, all of which I'm going to give you links to their books and to their works. Ben McBride has written a beautiful book about belonging and bridging and has a beautiful model in there. This is what I meant when I said I was kind of hesitant to do this podcast, because there's so many things. My friend Hanif in Portland, Oregon, has written a book that tells his story of his life, but it is deeply rooted in the ideas of belonging. We have Bell Hooks writing about belonging, and so there's just so many layers of things to unpack here, and it's so central to our spiritual identity. Belonging is not something that you earn, right? Sometimes we think we do. We have to earn our right to belong in our family, and get our father's approval or our mother's approval or our siblings' approval or the culture's approval or society's approval. But there's something innate about our belonging to the universe itself that no circumstance, no label, no past mistake can strip us of. It is our birthright. Ernest Holmes, the spiritual teacher of the Centers for Spiritual Living, says, you belong to the universe in which you live. You are one with the creative genius back of this vast array of ceaseless motion, this original flow of life, and you are as much a part of it as the sun and the earth and the air. And there's something in you telling you this, like a voice echoing from some mountaintop of inward vision, like a light whose no person has ever seen, like an impulse welling up from an invisible source. Your soul belongs to the universe. We know this, we feel this, and yet so much of our world emphasizes the ways in which we don't belong and reinforces our separation, and so we struggle. And so part of our liberation lens is understanding that everyone belongs and that we're building structures of belonging, that we have to create systems of equity and inclusion and justice of belonging in society through legislation and best practices at every sphere of life. And on the personal level, how do we practice this? I'm going to give you in the blog a graphic on how to live from this place of belonging. Right, to practice the presence when we're not fully present, and the boundaries between ourself and the world begin to dissolve. We realize that life is happening with you and not to you. So practice that sense of belonging. We can begin to see the sacred in each other, that every person we meet is a mirror reflecting an aspect of the same universal essence. Perhaps if they're irritating us, they're reflecting something that is within us, right? They're our teacher because we're all connected. And so we can love and embrace and give thanks for the gift that they're giving us in that moment. We can engage with nature, that who we are is stardust, right? And that there is no separation between ourselves and the sunshine and the rain and the dirt and the dust and the singing of the birds and the stars in the sky. We can recognize systemic barriers to belonging, right, that John Powell points out in his work, and advocate for political policies and institutions and communities that honor dignity of all people. That is needed right now because it's being dismantled by so much. And we can release the fears of rejection, because no one can throw you away. The fear of not belonging is often what keeps us from truly embracing our place in the universe. And when we learn to let go of the need for external validation and rest in the knowing that we already belong because of fundamentally who we are, then we rise to a whole nother level of our deep, deep sense of self and anchoredness, and allow ourselves to anchor that power in the world. When we understand that we belong not just in our intimate circles, but in all of existence, we begin to move differently in the world. We see injustice as an injury to the whole, not just to those people over there who are the subject of the injustice. We approach conflict with a desire for understanding rather than division. And we build communities based on love rather than exclusion. My friends, this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we get to explore in this fifth pillar, You Belong. What I want you to know right now is you take a deep breath. Thank you so much for listening. You are not lost. You are not an outsider. You are not separate. You belong to the universe, just as the universe belongs to you. Let this truth sink in. Let it guide your steps. Let it transform the way you show up in the world. And let it re-engage you in relationship to everything, including that which you don't like, including that which you resist, because you belong to that too. If it's in your awareness, you belong to it, which means you're in relationship with it. And you can transform your relationships through conscious awareness. That's it for now, my friends. There's a lot to unpack in Pillar 5 and to explore as we go deeper. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Liberation Lens podcast. Peace and blessings.